Analytics with Mastermind. Today your presenters will be Lisa Cartagena, Regional Manager at GoldMine, and Rob Maclack, President and Developer with MasterMine Software. Now, we have a large group today, so if you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the GoToWebinar dialog in the questions area, and we'll field them and either respond, or I'll respond, or pass them through to Rob as appropriate, and we may hold some questions till the end. And now with that, I'll pass things over to Lisa Cartagena of GoldMine, and take it away, Lisa.
All right. Well, thank you, Carnegie, and thank you, everyone who is joining us today. We really appreciate your time and the fact that you're just really interested in GoldMine and just being able to use some of the metrics and learn about the analytics of Mastermind today. So we'll go ahead and just kind of get started with some of a little bit of a historical background on GoldMine. So GoldMine's been around for about 25 years or so. I myself have been with GoldMine for about 16 years and really enjoy the product. I use it day in and day out, and talk to customers who really want to find a solution for, managing their contacts, being able to measure the activities, relationships, and anything that has to do with their customer base. We also are a product that has been very affordable for all of our customers throughout the years, especially if you have our GoldMine local installation premise product. I'm sure of those of you who currently own the product, if you're keeping your maintenance up to date, you've seen that you've gotten the value of the updates and some of the development that we've made on the product. GoldMine is also fully featured, so we have a lot of what we call maybe modules in the product where you can have a customer service department use GoldMine and with a customer service module, or you can also have your marketing department build groups or filters to be able to market to different people within your customer base. And a couple of other things that we'll mention, like GoldMine Web or mobile, again, are part of the product. And so throughout those 25 years, we've also built what we call a strong partner channel. So we do have GoldMine partners throughout the world that support the GoldMine installations, customizations, or anything that you need to help you manage your business. And some of you may already have partners that you currently work with. But today we're actually going to talk to, we're going to really share some information with you from more of a reporting standpoint. So Mastermind is one of our GoldMine partners and add-on products, and they have been around for just as long as GoldMine has been. So Rob has been great in just developing his product along with ours and being able to manage those relationships also. So I wanted to talk a little bit about GoldMine. Looks like we've hit a little bit of a capacity here. So, so again, just to mention a little bit about the ongoing development with GoldMine. For those of you who are current customers of GoldMine, I'm sure that if you've seen throughout the years that you've been able to use GoldMine in different capacities. We have now the GoldMine Web. We have the ability to help you with managing your data within GoldMine with our dashboards, having that web access where your remote users can basically be on the road and manage their data that way. And what really has helped too is that we can now allow users to maybe have an office in the United States, but maybe a satellite office, in a different country. So that has helped us become a worldwide customer-based product. And the ongoing development continues to grow. So for those of you, again, who have been GoldMine customers, I'm sure that you've seen that throughout the years. One of the other things that GoldMine, the advantages that GoldMine has is that you are able to secure your data. So for those of you who are in the financial or legal or even medical fields, you're able to secure your information because you own it. And that tends to be one of the things that, with other CRMs you may not be able to manage. Someone else is controlling your data. With GoldMine Premise, you can also use, what we call the GoldMine Cloud now. So it's our subscription-based desktop product that allows you to control your data again and be able to manipulate it and have it stored the way you'd like to have it stored. So your GoldMine data would be available for reporting. It's not constrained by having to, have someone do something that's not outside the box. So we'll go ahead and just talk a little bit about the GoldMine reports today that are built into the software. So I mentioned earlier that we do have dashboards, and we also have canned reports in GoldMine and templates. There are 37 GoldMine reports that are out of the box, 10 calendar reports, I'd say about 5 service reports, and I can continue on with the numbers, but and I think Rob will be showing some of that information along with Mastermind today. So again, just wanted to share with you a little bit about GoldMine, some of the history, and we'll go ahead and move on here and show you a quick little screenshot of what the GoldMine reporting looks like, but then I'll let Rob go ahead and show you more of the extensive reporting with the Mastermind tool. So thank you, Rob, for having me today, and I'll let you go ahead and just take it from here.
All right, thanks very much, Lisa. And you are seeing the GoldMine Reports screen now on the screen, just to check in, make sure, right? In
Yes.
other words, you're seeing a list of GoldMine. Okay. All right. So thanks very much, Lisa. I appreciate your being here. And for those, especially for those of you who are not currently GoldMine users, very important for you to know that GoldMine itself is a leading GoldMine is a leading CRM product, and has a great history of being a very well-developed, full-featured CRM application that really, in a lot of ways, precedes other ones you may have heard of more recently, but which has really kept up with, especially lately, with what the market is demanding. So, quick introduction about what Mastermind or who Mastermind is. We have been, as Lisa mentioned, a leading GoldMine add-on since the early days, and specifically focusing on, as you know, reporting and analysis and analytics, which is what we'll be talking about today. There are over 1,500 companies that have adopted the Mastermind application as an add-on for GoldMine, and we are also a GoldMine dealer. And specifically what Mastermind does, that's really what we're aiming at here today, at clarifying. What it does is it brings together Excel with GoldMine. The functionality of GoldMine is really excellent for accumulating a great deal of information about your prospects and your customers. And what Excel has built into it, whether you know it or not, is wonderful analytical tools. So you already own those. Essentially what we're doing is bringing those two together with GoldMine, bringing the Excel capabilities together with GoldMine to give you a really excellent means of managing your CRM from a number of different areas, a number of different directions. Reporting and analysis, of course, but also manipulation of your GoldMine data. And the third area here that I'm going to mention here is process management, and in a way that's maybe most important to a lot of you because you're probably already aware, especially if you're using GoldMine or using another CRM application, Excel tends to be the environment within which people are comfortable working with lists of things. So I'd be pretty much willing to bet that just about everybody on this call, and there are a lot of you, work with Excel in some way interfacing with your CRM already. What you're going to find here is it's actually possible to accomplish a great deal more. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you here, but it appears we're having audio problems for people on telephone and not using their computer speakers. Computer speakers are fine, so if anybody has access to using your computer speakers rather than calling in on the phone, we recommend doing that, and you'll get a much clearer audio.
Okay, hopefully that's not everybody who's calling in that's having that problem.
You're still pretty understandable, just a little jerky in the conversation. So.
Oh, my voice coming through?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll do what we can.
Exactly.
Okay. So just sort of wrapping up on the introduction here, process management. Just wanted to, I was pointing out that you probably use Excel already, and what we are introducing here really is continuous with that effort that's probably already going on to work with Excel, but really will take it far, far beyond what traditionally you'd be able to have been able to accomplish, while keeping you within that comfortable Excel environment. The other thing I want to say about this is that bringing these two together is an extremely cost-effective way of doing CRM. So you're combining the best of GoldMine with the functionality of Excel, and the cost effectiveness is not just because you already own Excel, but because of what you're already doing within Excel working better, and that Mastermind the Mastermind that you add on is priced in such a way that it really fits with the cost of GoldMine. It compares very well with most alternatives in the CRM world as far as analytics and data management. In terms of, well, Mastermind really is a fraction of what you might pay for some of the for some equivalent functionality associated with other CRM applications. Something to really be aware of if you're ever, as you are looking at CRM alternatives. Also, the learning curve is considerably lower and shorter when you're working with an Excel-based solution in an environment you're familiar with, as opposed to let's say analytics solutions that have their own environment where you're tending to really need to learn a great deal of new stuff and deal with a lot of unfamiliar things. What this all comes down to is that people who are using GoldMine really consider Mastermind to be an inseparable part of what I would call a GoldMine and Mastermind environment, because they provide that friendly environment that both coordinates activity and collects data on the GoldMine side, the GoldMine strength, and which on the Mastermind side really feeds useful information back to management and to the users. That combination really is very effective. So here's what we're going to get to today. We're talking about analytics for GoldMine, obviously, and the key areas that we really want to address are accountability. I'll actually bring these up first, and we'll talk about them. Accountability, forward-looking activity management, which is a contrast with the more traditional way of doing reporting and analytics on a database, providing for or restoring credibility in your CRM environment to the end users, which is extremely important to get them to actually do what needs to be done to do the basic work of collecting information, and finally turning that into actionable information, turning the result of your activity on a day-to-day basis into actionable information and making that available to you. So starting on that top one with accountability, I'm actually going to run through some examples here and show you GoldMine and Mastermind working together in each one of these different areas. Starting with accountability. Essentially what you normally expect with the CRM system is that you set goals and then you measure your results against those goals to see how you do. And on a day-to-day basis, you look for people to do the work of the business. Let's say sales activity could be, but it could also be customer service relationships, all the other activities that potentially can be monitored or can be held onto in GoldMine. And with that activity comes, theoretically, some monitoring and some analytics that really draw that connection between the planning and the goal setting and the actual result. So how do you actually accomplish that? And I'll switch over and give you an example here over on the GoldMine side. So what you see on your screen now here is a GoldMine environment here. And I'm going to give you some examples here now. As you probably are aware, as Lisa mentioned, there is a reporting. Actually, let me just pull up the reporting environment here. So GoldMine does have within it reporting capabilities, built-in reports, as Lisa pointed out, and there are built-in sort of set report templates in GoldMine. These are fairly broad, fairly extensive in terms of being able to give you reporting that's based on the fields that are built into GoldMine. When you want to go beyond that, and of course you will have customized your GoldMine, you will have named fields differently than the way they are just coming out of the box. Just as some examples, your key fields in GoldMine are probably not exactly the same as you see here on my screen. That's because your GoldMine is, at least to some extent, customized. And this one that you're looking at here as well. Not only do we have existing fields that have been renamed, but there are other fields that have been added to provide a sales user with key information, either demographic information or historical information, that allow them to make sales better by having that at their fingertips at the time that they're actually talking with customers. So in your own GoldMine, hopefully it's customized to some degree. If it's not, that is, of course, something that you can accomplish together with your GoldMine partner, and we very strongly encourage that you do that. And you can use, to the extent that you use your GoldMine better, you can use analytics to complete the circle, to actually make the collection of that information and the presentation of that information more useful to you as a company. And by the way, you can also, not just analytics, you can use Mastermind's data management to populate information up here. You get it there for the users in the way that they need it and at the time they need it. So now in this case, I'm going to start with just a look at calls. So I'm going to pull up a call report. Now this is going to look like more like a traditional call report. GoldMine has within it a built-in standard call report that allows a sales manager, for example, to see who was called, let's say, over the past week or the past month. Now let's extrapolate out from there the additional kinds of information that might be potentially useful for you, and you will see this Excel environment, this Mastermind environment, working together with the GoldMine in a very hand-in-glove kind of way, very interactively. So for example, from GoldMine, I just launched this report. It actually refreshed with current data as it was coming up. So the user, as a sales manager or an actual salesperson, pulling up a report like this from the GoldMine side is really literally a one-button affair. You just find it on your taskbar, click, and up it comes, and you can see what's going on. Now in this case, this report, this call report, is laid out in an Excel workbook with several different tabs. My summary tab here shows me an overview, as a sales manager might have it, across my different sales reps and how many calls did each of them make week by week. Jane O'Hare may not be an active salesperson, but some of these other ones clearly are. How many calls and appointments did we do? Actually, let's verify under activity type. We are looking at calls and appointments. Week by week since the beginning of this year. Now, if you're looking in your own live database and you've got tens of thousands of records and 30 salespeople calling, of course your numbers are going to be higher, but essentially it's the same report, just with slightly different scale of information. Now, I'm going to show you this report as it is currently laid out, but then I want to really get into go in the direction of analysis as opposed to simply looking at a report. Because that's really the crux of this thing, is you really need to be able to ask questions other than what's given in the default reports of any system that you've got. Even if you get Mastermind and lay out a series of reports that are similar to this, you will want to give your users a certain amount of flexibility as far as what they're looking at in the moment. I'll explain that here a little bit more in a moment. So this table here, this is sort of an illustration of a summary table that, as you can see, is going to, with each week that passes, it's going to automatically add another row as the next week comes along. Again, no extra programming necessary. It just simply comes up, refreshes with more information, fills a table, as well as shows this information graphically. And there's really no extra work that needs to be done if this answers all the questions that you want. I can see how many calls Lori made since the beginning of the year versus Leslie versus Nancy and so on. Now, any report that's worth its salt, in my opinion, actually shows you information and suggests that you may want to know something more. How do our calls break out by different sales rep? Now, I happen to have laid them out in advance here so I can see Lori's full sales call report for the week, and I'm actually going to show this one. Let's optimize our notes here a little bit so we can see these a little bit further. Now this is Lori's calls for 2016. You can see by the date that they fall here, but for example, a user might want to interact with the report to show me, let's say only last week's call. So that much interaction seems like a reasonable amount of interaction. Now, if you, in a traditional reporting environment, if someone had built you a report in Crystal Reports, they might have a week selector at the top so that you can choose what week, or they might have it only show you last week's, which is going to be, no problem if you only look at this report on at the beginning of the week. But if you're looking at the end of the week and you're thinking, well, do I want to see the end of this week or do I really want to see last week? Well, you're faced with actually programming 2 separate reports if you want this week versus last week, or having a week selector in here. But again, immediately that might raise some other questions like, well, that's fine for this set of records. Maybe I want to select the week, maybe I want to select which sales rep I'm looking at. But if I want to see also, or if looking at it sort of implies, well, that's fine, except I also want to see what type of records did she call? Are these customers she was calling? Are these prospects? How do those break out? Again, I might have to, if I'm working in a Crystal Reports environment, I might have to ask the Crystal Reports writer another field in here that tells me who are we talking to. If I've got Mastermind, I could actually go and take the contact type field, drag it into my report, maybe add it here at the end. Maybe I'd rather see it farther up. Maybe I'd rather see these grouped by which are the prospects and which are the past clients. Okay, if we want to group it, if I'm a user, I can be effective enough, I can be in control enough to actually move the field on the page. This is not terribly complicated stuff that I'm doing here. It's really just dragging and dropping to organize the field in the most useful way. And this is what I would call analytics as opposed to purely reporting. I want to get both of those ideas in here, but know that you are really covered if you have Mastermind. So now I've created a new version of this report in a sense. I've dragged in that additional field, organized it by contact type. Now in this case, that's just an enhancement of my report that shows me Lori's calls and appointments for the week, her so-called call report. By the way, I want to say this call report did not require Lori to do anything extra. She didn't have to do any, she didn't have to open up her own Excel and type the information in, which we see very frequently with users of GoldMine or CRM generally. You know, the CRM system might include some minimal information, but isn't it so much easier if the user just needs to put the information into GoldMine using the regular processes, and when the sales manager wants to see Lori's call report, all the sales manager has to do is load it up and look at it. There's no extra work done by the sales rep in order to make that happen. Now, I think it's also useful to have Lori able to look at her report so she knows, well, what's this going to look like when the sales manager opens it up? You know, have I filled in my notes? Oops, here's one that's actually missing notes. What should I do about that? Well, let's interact with the GoldMine database. Let's actually drill down on this record. Now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and let it pull the notes together, but my notes are actually empty. Now I'm being asked, when I've drilled down here, do I actually want to go through to the GoldMine record itself and call up that pending activity that happened, or that completed activity that happened in February? I'm going to go ahead and let it go all the way through. Oops. I waited a little bit too long. I'm going to go ahead and just double click to pull up that record. And here I can see, here's my completed call, my completed appointment actually, in which I did not actually put any notes. Let's get those notes in to describe what happened. Met with Jimmy. He's interested in a widget, and of course, all the other notes that are associated there. Need to wait until his budgeting period, or whatever the notes might be. So here we've taken a report, we've drilled all the way through down to GoldMine to fill in something that was missing in our report. So where are we? Well, let's go back to Lori's screen here, where I had drilled down back into GoldMine, and with a quick refresh, now Lori has filled in her information as going to optimize that a little bit. So Lori has filled in her information, so her report is complete. The sales manager can pop it open when the sales manager is ready. Doesn't have to be at the same time. Lori doesn't have to print it off and deliver it over to the sales manager. Sales manager just simply opens it up, and it will reflect that that instance information rather than last Friday's. Now, if you want to do weekly reports, of course, you can always freeze these. You can do archive versions of them from every Friday if you want to. But pretty quickly, what you hopefully learn is if your reports and your analytics interact with your GoldMine, with your CRM, much more actively maybe than you're used to, you really have a great deal more control over the entire process of sales management and of self-management, as I've illustrated here with Lori. Now,
Rob,
go ahead, Carnegie.
Is it a good time to throw a question to you?
Go ahead.
Okay, Michael is asking, when we book appointments with our company, we use result and code on GoldMine to organize our calls by booked appointment or requested appointment. How do you generate a reports for result and codes in Mastermind/GoldMine?
Great question. I'm actually going to, let's do that. I was going to do that in a slightly later place, but in context here it works pretty well. So this will be an example of where I'm going to take this report and actually clone it. Now, as you can see, there are other versions of this report in here. Here's Nancy's same report. Here's a side-by-side, or this is a side-by-side of different account managers by type of call that they made. What I'm being asked for, or what the question that I hear, and that's so important, when you think about how analytics goes, someone needs to articulate a question, typically in English, not in computerese, and then a sales manager or a sales admin person or an IT person, sadly, often enough it's the IT person this falls upon, has to take that English question and interpret it into something that makes sense to them. And then you wind up with this kind of back and forth. The IT person writes a crystal report, does a GoldMine reports, not something that you expect actual end users to be able to get their own answers for. I'm going to illustrate this the way an end user might actually take an existing report such as this and simply reorganize it to answer a question like the one we just got. So I'm going to take this report and I'm actually going to clone it. This is using, now there's a whole set of Mastermind tools that are built into Excel. I already showed you some of the ones that actually get back into GoldMine, and we'll come back to some of those later. But there's a whole set of tools in here that actually make it easy to refine your report, duplicate it, work with it in different ways, clean it up before presenting it, actually deliver and present it to certain users, make it available to them with security, without security, whatever's appropriate. There's a lot of really great functionality in here that I'm not going to go into today. I just want to show you more generally what's possible. You will, of course, be able to make an appointment with us afterwards, and we'll offer that up when we get done to take a look at your own database working with this. And when you do that, you'll be able to see how these tools work with you as well and ask about them. So I'm going to clone this worksheet. That's all I did was click that button, and it made a new clone over here. And we might call this, let's say, code and result analysis. Why am I naming my tab that way? Because I might very well want to be able to come back to this later on for a very similar analysis. And again, anything that I do here, all I have to do is hit the save button, and the next time I come in, this is all going to be here again. It doesn't need to be redone for me. So the question was, let's say, we're coding our appointments by analysis, by activity code, and by result code. By the way, if I just wanted to see what are the activity codes that came through and the result codes, those fields are going to be typically available by default in any Mastermind report. Had I failed to include them when I created this report, I even have tools in here. This is another Mastermind toolbar that actually allows me to go back to GoldMine and add a field that I've forgotten to bring in. So really quite a bit of depth to the interaction here with GoldMine. Now in this case, I'm going to simplify this report. So in this case, all I did was I added that code field and the result code into my report. But if I really want to do an analysis of, let's say, Lori's calls, let's say since the beginning of the year, so we'll open this up to all of our calls for 2016, and I don't really want all this detail. I really want to know just by activity code and by result, so getting rid of the individual call data here, bring this down to a very simple by activity code, by result, what actually happened. All I've done is a series of drags and drops. It's very simple. Any end user can do it. Now, we do provide a little bit of training online to make it easy for you. So when you get Mastermind, we'll go online with you for an hour and actually show you how to work with the pivot table here, as well as do other interactions with GoldMine. But as you can see, it's not something that takes a lot of time, and it didn't really take a whole lot of knowledge to be able to break down Lori's calls since the beginning of the year by activity code, or what's labeled code on the GoldMine side, and by result. So in this case, we've got certain kinds of results. And in fact, we can group these. We can say, the ones that are coded COM and INP. And by the way, these are just arbitrary codes that are set up in GoldMine. These can be any codes that you want. That's one of the beauties of GoldMine. It's very easy to set up your lookups, set up your way of using the data to match your actual real life way of making calls and doing follow-ups. And here within the report, again, on the fly here, I can say, these count as real contacts versus these other kinds of completion codes that indicate, well, all we did was leave a message. There was no real contact there, so I'll group those as well. No contact. Now again, we've got some other ones where the user failed to enter in a result code, so we could drill down and find out, well, who's the user that failed to fill these in, or actually drill through, and if I am that user, if I'm Lori and I just know that, of course, those are me because these are my accounts, I can drill through, actually put in result codes, and the result of this is I'll wind up with, let me just turn off those ones for the moment that don't have any values. Those. And so I'll wind up with really just two columns, those where I had a contact, those where I didn't have a contact, and there's my analysis. A very quick switch, in a sense, from looking at the report one way to looking at the same information from a very different perspective that gives me a lot of useful information. And this kind of gets to that other point in the PowerPoint that I was making before, which is the real aim here is to get information from GoldMine that's actionable, that actually tells you, here's something that's going to help me improve our processes, improve our sales activity, improve our results. Being able to do this really gives you that ability. Now that I've created this other view in here, I'm never going to have to create this again. All I have to do is save it. I've saved the workbook here. I could close it, I could come back a week from now, reopen it, I'll have new information populating this same breakdown of my activities, and I'll still have the ability to go in here and say, well, let's look at that by a different user, or let's look at it for all of our users across the whole team, or let's show it, et cetera, et cetera, any of the ways that you might want to get into your GoldMine data. Okay, so all of this has been done in the context of a simple report that is built against calls and appointments. I want to show a couple of other examples of ways to look at data. And here's, by the way, this is past activity, of course. This is not future activity. How do you do reporting that actually is forward-looking as opposed to let's say rear view mirror or past looking? Now this is, you can be very current here in terms of actually looking at this week's activity, but I'm going to minimize this report, go back into GoldMine, and show a slightly different view of our data. Let's go to a forecast report. Now in your CRM application, either in conjunction with your accounting or your ERP, you probably have somewhere in your system, even if it's not right there in your CRM, you have sales information. What's the actual dollars that were brought in, as well as where's your forecast. Now your CRM users hopefully don't have to go off into other places to find out what did I sell last year, last month, and so on. If you're working your CRM well, if you're working your GoldMine well, your past sales activity can all be summarized right up at the top of the screen, or it can be present right here in pending in history. GoldMine does an excellent job of allowing a user to go in and actually forecast a sale, and that can be a very simple forecast like what you're seeing right here. I'll just open this up so you can see the kind of information that's available associated with a sale. If your sale is more complex than this, if it involves many different parts or many different people, GoldMine can handle that through the Opportunities tab, where Opportunities in GoldMine can manage really a multi-part, multi-month, multi-person involved sale. You just need to work with your GoldMine partner, again, and I really strongly encourage you to work with your CRM partner to do this, to figure out what is the best way to present this information within GoldMine. What's the best way that's most efficient for entering it in, as well as turning it into useful information that users can rely on as they're working with it. So your choice as far as how you store it in GoldMine, Mastermind can actually handle it any of the ways that you actually put it into GoldMine. But again, because you are making those choices, there may not be exactly canned reports built into GoldMine, or for that matter Mastermind, that give you that information just with a single click until you actually set them up and build that logic that you're using for your CRM system into your reporting. Mastermind's fully capable of handling it. It's really a question of are you using GoldMine just as kind of in its template form, or are you really digging in and using it in a better way that's more configured with your own business? So what I've raised here, what I've brought up is a forecast report. This gives us, this again is an Excel workbook, what we call a Mastermind workbook. It's got several different views of our forecast. This particular one is built around the actual quarter and year in which we expect the sales to happen. It shows us a count of the sales, units, dollar amount, and so on. Now that's one particular way of looking at this that may be for one user, let's say a sales manager or the executive level, a very useful view of the data, but of course there are other views that are potentially very useful and very easy to get to using Mastermind. I've built here a little dashboard view. Again, it's just that this is a variation on the same thing. This dashboard view shows us by product group, and that's taking our products field from our sales and grouping them. I'll show you here in a moment that the actual GoldMine data here contains individual products, but at the Mastermind level, we've grouped them together so that our gadget products are all grouped together and our widget products are all grouped together. And we've got a nice dashboard here that just gives us a summary for 2016, quarter by quarter, and then a graphical view. Making a graphical view from a Mastermind report is very easy. If you're already familiar with pivot tables, it's essentially really just making a pivot chart out of an existing pivot table. And anything, again, this is a great example of how anything that you already know how to do in Excel can really be leveraged without having to learn a whole new environment, without having to learn a lot of new stuff. And again, if you don't already know this stuff in Excel, we train you and we support you. But you know, what's the value of having it here in Excel as opposed to in a report that somebody provides you on a piece of paper? Well, again, that ability to drill through. I see, you know, Rob's got 53,000 in sales in the second quarter here. What's behind that 53,000? Well, there's a couple of ways that I might roll this down or drill through. Drilling through is just a matter of double-clicking on the number, similar to what I did before where I was drilling through on a single item, except here I'm drilling through on a full number here. I'm being asked, do I want to present the notes here? In this case I'm going to say no, I don't want to see the notes. The notes are off to the right someplace on my sales. I just want to see it this way. Who's the contact, who's the company involved in the sale, and so on. I can go through all the detail here, and you can see they're all different kinds of gadgets in my product field. That was rolled up in my report. Again, I can drill through to the individual records on the GoldMine side. I can also do things like pop up the activity. This one would pop the GoldMine record on the GoldMine side. This one would pop the actual activity that I'm on, in this case a sales activity. So Jerry West of the Lakers has a sale scheduled on May 6, 2016. I can pull in whatever fields I want to display in the report here, or I can actually go right over to the GoldMine side and pop up that activity because you know what, the units was wrong on this one. It really should have been 2 units. Fix it on the GoldMine side, and in just an instant from my report, I've fixed something in GoldMine that makes my report make more sense. And back to the top here, when I refresh here, we'll see the 53,000 actually go up a little bit. I'm using a short menu here for the refresh. I'm sure you know, Mastermind toolbar also has the refresh here. So when I refresh, our number goes up a little bit because we just added an additional unit of sale there. All by way of illustrating, you're never really leaving GoldMine, and yet you still have a lot of Excel functionality here available.
I have 2 questions for you, Rob.
Okay.
One person's asking how you got 2 graphs on the page.
Okay. Quick answer, because I have 2 different pivot tables, here I could actually do this. I could copy this pivot table and put another version of it down here, paste it, and maybe change to a different kind of data. And because I've got a different pivot table here, I can just go right over and add another chart that goes with it, pick which type of chart it's going to be. Maybe I'll have this chart be to the right of my table, and voila. It's really this is more detail than you would ever expect to see somebody do in an online demo, let alone a webinar. But as you can see, it's just really fast and easy to do this, on the fly as you need the answers. What's the other question?
How can we use Mastermind to clean up or correct data in GoldMine database? Example, missing field for some contacts in the company, missing email, etc. And thank you. And great question,
Okay.
Donald. Thank you.
It's a great question, and I actually was just about to get to the credibility thing. I'm going to handle that, what I call data credibility. I'm going to handle that in just a moment. I just want to illustrate something else here in the context of this forecast report, though. And that is, and again, forecasts tend to be forward-looking. What do we think is going to happen in the future? This is an example of a report, and and what this is, I really sort of wanted to contrast this new sales here with an overview. Now, this overview is my forecast. This is based on what date we expect or we've projected these dollars are going to come in the door. What I did was I made another version of this report, and all I did was substitute, instead of building it upon the date the sale is expected to come in, I did it by the date that we actually created the sale in the system. In other words, what you'd be able to look at, in this case, month by month, or you could look at, for the sales that we expect to come in for the rest of this year, when were those sales actually entered into the system? So you might be looking, for example, the last line here. In February of 2016, we've added 9 new sales for a total value of $10,000, and we can be more specific about this. By sales rep, how many sales did each person add into the system, and what was that value? Or by product group, how are we doing on gadgets? In terms of just looking at for the month of February, what are our new sales that have been added into the system, forecast in this case, discounted by the probability. So if somebody said it's only a 20% probability, maybe we only count the dollar amount for it in 20% and so on. So this is I just wanted to sort of illustrate, this is a somewhat more forward-looking, or at least current time looking view of our forecast, and very easily created simply by substituting one date versus a different date from our data in order to present it this way. You probably don't need me to actually show you the dragging in and dragging out of that field. Very easy to do. Okay, so moving on, CRM credibility, because the issue of working with a CRM system, the thing that breaks CRM more than anything else is the credibility of the database. Do the users actually believe in the numbers that they're seeing up here? Do they believe in the history that shows up under history? Do they believe in what is impending? Now, some of that credibility issue is, what does that person do themselves, right? So if you're a sales rep, and you're Rob M here, as I am, and Jerry West of the Los Angeles Lakers is your customer, then his record in GoldMine is probably your responsibility to make sure that things are accurate in here. Now, will you bother to make that accurate? Will you bother to actually find out the information that's missing and put it into GoldMine? And the answer is probably no, unless the CRM itself, the CRM system itself, is credible to you and your team. And secondly, if not only in general it's credible, but also if the information is fed back to you in some sort of a useful form that helps you to do your business better. This is a really key and important point to the success of any CRM system. If the users don't believe in it, and if they're not getting useful information back from it, they will not bother to put in the useful information. They will not bother to fill in the fields. They will not bother to create, let's say, completed calls and appointments and so on in the data if it doesn't feed back in some useful way. You can order them to do it, you can punish them if they don't do it, but in reality it's not going to happen unless there's a really strong informational reward from it. Again, very important reason to have analytics, very important reason to have reports that can be customized to the individual user's needs. And having hit that really strong, let's actually talk about fixing GoldMine data. Now the questioner was asking, can we take GoldMine data and actually bring it into a report and manage it? I'm going to go ahead and show you, as I have not done yet, how to create a new original Mastermind report here. And again, what I partly want to do is just illustrate for you how easy it is for a non-technical user. Now, of course, in every organization, you're going to limit the ability to create reports to certain users. Even though everybody is smart enough to do this, you may not want them all to have that capability. But that's okay. You can license Mastermind as appropriate to your situation, so you only put the create capability into the hands of certain users who on a day-to-day basis might need to create reports. You might even do it, you might even put them only in the IT department. I strongly recommend that instead you move it down to somebody within the department that actually needs the information. The IT department can use the reports for GoldMine administration, but everybody else can use it for sales management, for marketing management, for customer service management, all the real rubber hits the road kinds of things in your report, in your company. So I'm going to create a report here from scratch, but I want to illustrate how easy this is. So the Mastermind interface is actually built very closely around GoldMine. As we mentioned right at the top, we've been in this market for 16 years. We built Mastermind around GoldMine so that a user really needs to make only a few choices at the front end to get the information into Excel where they can work with it. In this case, I'm going to choose main contact information. As you can see, I could pull reports if I'm more of a contact-centric as opposed to a company-centric user of GoldMine. My Mastermind will still work just fine with me. I just need to choose which level I want to be pulling my data. I'm going to do the main contact information here to start with. I want to illustrate also, though, that for activity reporting, anything that's under your activities, your pending or history activities in GoldMine, that's calls, appointments, sales, every other different, every type of activity, you just need to choose which type of activities you're going to be including in your report. Again, I'm going to be doing just a simple report on the main contact information to start with here. But as you can see, all the modules of GoldMine are included. If it's in GoldMine and you can see the data there, we have reports built in or reporting capability, whether you're building it from scratch this way or you use the templates, which we'll come back to. It's very easy to build these reports. Essentially, you choose what area of GoldMine you want to pull your information from. The fields appear down here in a window. These fields automatically are labeled the way you, as a user, your customized fields show up. So you don't really need to know that underneath the covers in GoldMine contact type is actually called key 1. And industry is called key 2. You don't need to know that stuff. If you really want to, you can actually toggle to see the view that different way in the Mastermind interface. But as an end user, you don't need to know that. You don't need to know that email address is actually kept in a completely different table in GoldMine and it relates to the contact record in a special way. As a user, you just need to know, I want to include the email addresses with my report. So you just check it on. All of your user-defined fields as well are listed in here, and it's very easy to include them for reporting just by checking a field. Now, I actually, for my purposes here, I'm going to include my last year's sales in my account potential field. I'm doing this for a reason because I've already planned to do these reports. So and by the way, you notice that these fields in here, they're in the order that they're added to the database, so that things tend to be grouped according to their function in GoldMine. But if I need to alphabetize so I can more easily find them, easy buttons there to do this sort of thing. I want to pull the account potential field there, and I also want to pull my last year sales. Actually, I want my year-to-date sales here because I'm going to do an analysis that combines those two. So I'm going to grab my year-to-date sales. Anything else, if I forget to bring it in there, I already pointed out to you in Excel, there are tools that will allow you to add any fields that you forgot to bring in. And I'll go ahead and finish this, and I'm going to overwrite a report that I created before. Now, I'm still going to get back to that question about updating the GoldMine data, but I wanted to start by actually showing creating a report, bringing some fields in. This is the base sort of view of our report. Again, I could do simple analysis. Let's show our leads by industry and by sales rep, who's responsible for them, and maybe filter it by are they A, B, or C leads? This is my key field where I've got scoring in there built into GoldMine. Now, and by the way, that scoring is all managed through Mastermind. Now, in part, it can be scoring by the sales rep. The sales rep says whether something is an A, B, or C lead. But how are they going to score new leads that are mass input from someplace else? Sometimes it's useful to take other information and apply that information here in Excel and actually score the leads and then update that score field over on the GoldMine side. I'm actually going to use that as my illustration here today. So this is a simple overview report. Again, just to show this as a line listing kind of a report if I wanted to simulate what you would normally do in a crystal report where you said, well, let's show me all of Rob M's A leads we'll show their industry, but we'll also show who's the contact that he's calling, who's the company, and you can see me laying out a report similar to what you might pay a sales a consultant to do a custom crystal report, but far easier and with a better result. Because not only have I built this report, Rob M's A leads, showing whatever fields I wanted to, and again, any fields in GoldMine are available to include. If I failed to include them when I check them on, got a tool here to add them over from the GoldMine side, very easy to work with. And I've built this report. Now all I have to do is save it, deploy it to, I can deploy it to another user. Dialogues here that interface with GoldMine to allow me to put this on a user's taskbar so they can just pop it up. It'll refresh while it's opening, ready to go, so that their report won't be what I set up. It'll still be laid out the same way, but it will be with current data in it. Nobody calling on the IT department to go and run that report for me and print it out for me and then deliver it to me every Friday. That's a waste of time, a waste of personnel. Far easier to just simply put the report on the GoldMine taskbar and let them work with it. Now, let's get into that question that we just had where we were asked, can I manage data on the GoldMine side based on what's in my reports? In other words, not just drill through to individual records, but actually control the GoldMine data, fill in where it's missing. So for example, here we have a bunch of records that are missing emails, missing the campaign field, missing whatever it might be. Let's take the email as an example since my scores are all filled in already, although I kind of like that way. I'm going to go ahead and take the email example. Rob M has failed to fill in emails for certain of his records. Oh, look at that. There's some other ones that have phone numbers instead of emails, but let's just go with the ones that are where they're blank. So primary email is blank. Again, that same functionality I talked about before, drilling through. We've drilled through for individual ones. We've drilled through to show a list or show the set of records that are behind a certain number. In this case, we're just drilling through on the grand total after I've set primary email equal to blank because I want Rob M to go and fill this in. Now I could, my process might be to say to Rob, go and get correct email addresses, call these up one by one and call them up. And of course they could do that. They could literally make the phone call and get an email address for them, or we might assign this to a let's say another worker in the organization to go and get this information, or maybe they can actually pull it from another location and go in here and fill in the correct information. Here's Susan at global.com and who's that? Rick at global.com and so on, and I'm actually filling it in here on the GoldMine side. Now I'm not going to go down this page, but as you can see, it'd be pretty easy for me to fill in all of the email addresses that are for these records, and then highlight those, and this is where the Mastermind part of it comes in. Actually update this information back into GoldMine. Now, if there's a simple GoldMine field, contact level field that I'm going to be updating. Now, let me pause here for just a moment before I go and make a mass change in the GoldMine data and alarm people. Updater is again a selective capability in Mastermind that you can give to certain users and deprive, let's say, most of your users of, but it's very powerful for managing GoldMine because not only are you able to mass update records from inside here, in this case, this would be as a user, you might not even know that this is the emails that we're updating, or that it's actually, the emails are in a different table in GoldMine. That's okay. Your updater user will know this sort of thing, or be able to manage different aspects of GoldMine through the tools that are built in here. Taking your analysis to this level really means that you not only can know what's happening in GoldMine, but you can actually update what's on the GoldMine side. So I'm not actually going to make this change, but I will just sort of mention that you can mass change, and this could be 10 or 10,000 records at a time, or 100,000 records I've seen done. And really, you're making your changes through the GoldMine API, so the proper housekeeping is done, but you do have the ability to, let's say, make changes and or make do sort of a rehearsal change so that you can see the before and after before you finalize your changes into the database, or even undo changes that you do. Okay, we're getting very close to the end here, so I want to just wrap up.
I have a couple more quick questions. I think they'll be quick.
Okay.
Where'd they go? Sorry. Can we create Gantt charts of project schedules and service tickets?
The answer is yes. We have done Gantt charts before, but they tend to be very unique to the organization. So my quick answer is going to be, you can do Gantt charts. There's not just a push button way of doing it, but we can certainly set them up for you, and that's, you just get the MasterMine software, and we can do a combination service and software. What's the next one?
Okay, and the next one is, can MasterMine extract information from the concept table?
MasterMine extracts information from every table in GoldMine. Every table, certainly, that contains information that's visible on the GoldMine screen. And without knowing specifically what they're after, I can't really illustrate it, but the concept table actually contains, these additional contacts. It also contains details, and all of that is handled. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick wrap up here because we're very close to the end of our time. However, at the end, I'll stay on here and take questions as long as we've got them. But I want to give you a quick wrap up here. So, why do you use MasterMind? It is a low-cost, efficient way of getting your reporting and your analytics done with GoldMine. The combination of GoldMine and CRM, for those of you who are not yet GoldMine users, really strongly encourage you to consider the overall cost of your CRM to include reporting and analytics as well as the software itself, and you will find that GoldMine is a very cost-effective way of doing this. I think I've talked plenty about empowering your users with information, and by the way, with accurate and credible information, which is really important because that builds the credibility of your CRM system, and really is a necessary component to making CRM work. If you've not made CRM work within your organization before, very likely that's one of the major issues. Smooth workflows really means, the things that you are already doing, probably manually, probably with workaround processes, could be done much more automatically if you've got the proper tools in place to do it. And of course, the ability to administer your GoldMine system itself much better is provided through MasterMind. Ultimately, what we're talking about here is an efficient sales and marketing organization, and not just those things, but of course, customer service and everything else that you run through GoldMine can be vastly more efficient than it already is, and that ultimately is what spells success with your CRM. So I want to wrap up with an offer for you. Those of you who are on this webinar or watch the recording in the near future, we will actually do for you, we will take the time to get online with you and show you MasterMind and do a free report. We take up to an hour to do it. There's a lot of reporting that can actually be done, as you've already seen, in a pretty short amount of time with MasterMind. So setting it up and actually doing it for you within an hour, it may not sound like a great offer if you're expecting that, like the equivalent with Crystal reports or doing other things, that reports take forever. Mastermind reports can be done very quickly. Now, of course, there are some that do involve complex relationships in your GoldMine data, and they'll take more than an hour. We aren't going to give you that as part of the free introduction to Mastermind, but just know that almost inevitably, if what you need is a dashboard or some kind of information ongoing that's more complex, it can be done with Mastermind more efficiently than virtually any other way. There's a couple of examples of specific things that you might want to be able to do, but just be sure and take advantage of this before March 31st. We have a lot of people on this call, a lot of people who will hopefully also be taking part in our follow-up webinar, which is in a couple of days. We'll also be doing a live version of this. So schedule it early so that you can get on our schedule. You can send emails to sales@mastermind.net to get that scheduled, or you can actually call up our toll-free number there, extension 214. And in fact, you'll be speaking with Carnegie to schedule that appointment. If you are not already a GoldMine user, and what you really need is to know a little bit more about CRM and how it works, you will, of course, want to work with, if you've got a relationship with a GoldMine partner, talk to that partner about that combination of Mastermind and GoldMine. If you don't yet have a GoldMine partner that you're working with, of course, you're welcome to work with us. You can, again, send your inquiry to sales@mastermind.net. In this case, if you don't have GoldMine yet, you obviously are not going to be able to see a trial of Mastermind except in a demo environment. But if you get a trial of GoldMine set up, or you actually start working with GoldMine sometime in the near future, use this coupon code. Call us up. Again, we want you to reserve it before the end of March, but use this coupon code and we will be happy to get online with you and actually show you GoldMine working in at whatever level you've managed to set it up. Or, obviously working with your partner, you want to be able to do that the most efficient way. We'll demonstrate Mastermind working together with it. So with that, I'm going to put up our final slide here. This summarizes contact information for us and for GoldMine. If you would like to know, if you've got further questions about GoldMine, by all means talk with GoldMine themselves, talk with your GoldMine partner. If you've got questions about analytics, reporting, that sort of thing related to GoldMine, our number is on the screen there. I want to thank everybody for attending today. Also thank Lisa Cartagena from GoldMine for being on here with us. And this will end the formal part of the webinar, but we will include the questions also, I think, in the recording as well.
Yes.
So, Carnegie, just give me a quick summary. Do we have a lot of questions or just a few to handle here?
We have 3 right now, so
okay.
Just a few.
Let's go ahead.
Okay. Does each user need a license to be able to view shared reports?
Yes. Each user needs to have a Mastermind license to open Mastermind reports. Now, that isn't to say that you can't ship them out from Mastermind in a flat form. They are still Excel reports, and those can be what we call a snapshot. You can ship those out. It is easier to share Mastermind reports within the Mastermind environment, and of course the users then have the ability to drill through and ask questions and so on. Carnegie, if you can mute me in between questions, or mute yourself in between questions.
Oh,
I
sorry.
hear the voice coming back. Yes, typically they will need to have a Mastermind, what we call a share license, which is a very inexpensive sub-license version of the overall application. But they do need to have that capability. In part, that gives you security that you don't have just every user looking at every report. You can license them selectively, but it also affords them just some better functionality with the report that's delivered to them. Okay, next question.
Good question, Claire. Next question from Karen. Just to confirm, Mastermind comes with set reports and, of course, the ability to create your own reports.
Yes, Mastermind comes with templates. I didn't actually show. I think I will actually go back and show that so that it's clear. So the Create dialog does include over 150 templates. Each of these templates is not, by the way, just simply a report that only does one thing, because you can still they start out with a sort of a core focus or a core purpose. In this case, this would be the alarmed records in GoldMine that you have. So you've got forecast, or scheduled calls and appointments, and this alarms template with whatever fields you check on allows you to actually do reporting on what alarms people have set. Now, why would you want to do that in GoldMine? A really valuable thing in GoldMine is the ability to have alarms come up, sort of pop up on your screen. But I can't tell you how many organizations I've seen where they've become overwhelmed by the alarms in their system, just past due pending activities that had alarms set to them, so that when GoldMine comes up, it just right away, ping, 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 shows them all these alarms that are past due on, and they just turn off the alarm system, and then they just never use it again. Well, that's great functionality that's built into GoldMine that they're not using. That really, just for one small example, makes CRM a much better tool than, say, Outlook, where you can set things on a calendar, but you can't really manage the alarms very well. Well, in GoldMine, you can manage these alarms, and if you get behind on it or overwhelmed by it, you can actually use Mastermind to mass manage those alarms that are out there, to turn off the alarms or to reschedule them or to figure out analytically, what are these alarmed activities that we've fallen behind on, and do we need to reassign those for someone else to do? All of that can be managed much more effectively using the tools in Mastermind than you could ever do by going to them one by one in GoldMine and just turning off or turning on the individual alarms. So sorry for that little tangent, but the point is there are over 150 templates built into here, each of which has its own focus and its purpose for GoldMine management, for sales management, for administration of GoldMine, for administration of, let's say, marketing activities through Constant Contact. There's lots of templates built into here that make all of the things that you do in GoldMine more effective. And the last question there.
Well, we actually have two more. So,
okay.
Are there limitations to data size? We have over 270,000 records.
There are no limits that, the only limits have to do with the speed of processing. Excel does not limit you to pulling, any certain number of records into a pivot table, actually, or no practical limit. It does have limits such as when you drill down, that you can only show up to 1 million rows on a spreadsheet. That does not limit you to only having 1 million items queried into your pivot table. So it really is a question of processing speed. So 200,000 records in GoldMine, I've seen people just work very efficiently with it. Usually your limitation there is really going to be the power of the workstation that you're on, as well as whether you're working across the web and that sort of thing to get your data. So 200,000 records, account records in GoldMine as such, is not an issue. If each one of those has 100 history items, that's 20 million, is that right? 20 million history items. There you're going to want to be just a little bit careful about how you pull your data, or you're going to want to be very much more careful, really. And again, that's just a matter of working with us in your training and in your approach to creating your reports in such a way that you can more effectively work with that data. But that's a great example of it's just a fact that human beings are only able effectively to work with somewhere between 100 and 1,000 things. That's a really broad generalization, but it's just true that you can only hold a certain amount of stuff current in your own head. But GoldMine, or CRM, makes it possible to work with thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of things at a time. What this Mastermind capability is just an extension in that same direction of being able to manage things on a very large scale, even though you're only one person or a small team.
Okay. And the last question, the person has left, but I thought it might be good to reiterate a little bit. She had asked, I'm new to the company and need to learn how to optimize the use of GoldMine before we consider updating or supplementing with Mastermind. Do we offer training sessions or have short training DVDs on how to use our existing program?
When they're saying existing program, she's talking about existing GoldMine?
GoldMine, yes. So it might be
So,
good to reiterate.
yeah, so
GoldMine
really
resellers.
you want to work with your GoldMine partner. You want to work with your GoldMine partner. It just is not, it's not a regular end user thing to do to decide how should we configure our GoldMine. Where should the data go? How does this actually match up with our way of doing sales, sales and marketing and customer service and so on? It's not a regular civilian activity to figure out all, that level of how to work with GoldMine. Now, the next level of, how should you do your reporting? How should you, on a day-to-day basis, show somebody how to complete or schedule an activity in GoldMine and complete that activity on the other side. You may choose to do your own training and your own work on that, but that's not, I want to say that follows having a very deep, rich discussion with your GoldMine dealer about how to work with it. And by the way, this is not a shortcoming of GoldMine. It is CRM. CRM is a whole approach to doing a business. It isn't even a piece of software, as such necessarily. It's a whole approach to doing a business that's built upon knowledgeable, people who have experience fitting software together with businesses. If you're doing that yourself, I just strongly discourage you from trying to do it all by yourself, or even just trying to do it by seat of your pants or by what you might call common sense. That's not an effective way to work with GoldMine. Talk to your partner. Get them to help you. If you don't have a partner, talk to talk to GoldMine and get a partner. There are lots of partners available on the GoldMine web, and of course we're a partner as well. Is that the last question we have?
That's it. So
all right.
I will go ahead and end the webinar. I would like to thank everybody that's still here. Thank you very much for attending, and you will receive a copy of the webinar tomorrow afternoon. And I guess that's it. Anything else, Rob?
That's all I've got. I'm just going to leave the slide up here for half a moment here. Thank you all very much, and once again, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, guys. Bye.